Hi, my name is Momo, and I'm a senior in the Clark Honors College, currently writing a thesis. I'm a political science major with an international studies and ethnic studies minor.
Tell us a little bit about your thesis.
So my thesis basically is focused on food sovereignty in Puerto Rico, and I'm primarily looking at how food, both producing food, eating food, sharing food, is used as a means of political power and agency and resilience and resistance in the context of Puerto Rico and colonialism. So I'm trying to focus on and uplift stories of people using food, which is not traditionally thought of as like a means of political agency in kind of traditional political theory, but I'm trying to focus on how that is a source of agency and a really powerful one at that. So looking at how kind of the individual experience of eating and engaging with food is connected to these larger systems of power and policies and structures that are often seem very disconnected from our lived experiences, but when you look at food, are very much intimately tied to how we experience our lives and live in our world. So I'm looking at also the connection of violence against ecologies and land through industrialized agriculture and kind of these changing practices with modernity with impacts on like physical bodies. So the connection of our bodies to the land, which adds into some stuff in environmental justice literature.
I love it. What drew you to this topic?
So I initially got the idea for this thesis. I was doing one of my honors college colloquiums, which was about Hunger Games and social philosophy.
Love it.
And for my final paper, I was writing about colonialism and food justice and talking about District 13 and the Hunger Games as a fictional example. But then I was relating that to a kind of a contemporary example of Puerto Rico and how food has been both a mechanism of state violence, but then also a source of resistance to that state violence. So I was reading a lot about food sovereignty in that context, and just like reading all these amazing stories of people doing really incredible work, especially after Hurricane Maria. And then I have a really good Puerto Rican friend who I was talking to about all this stuff. Turns out she knew a lot of the activists who I was reading about and just had a lot of connections within the food sovereignty movement on the island. So she offered to connect me and just late night I was in New York and she was like, you know what, you should just come to Puerto Rico this summer and do research with me. And it was one of those things where it just like felt right and everything fell into place and connections led to other connections. So then I spent the summer in Puerto Rico.
How has it changed as you've gone through the process of conducting it and researching it and all of that?
So I think I have thought a lot more about how the context of Puerto Rico is both very unique and specific in some ways in terms of kind of the political relationships and geopolitical situation, but then also how what I'm looking at in Puerto Rico is very much applicable and relevant to a lot of other studies or a lot of other case studies. And I think just like drawing out what we can learn has been really important for me because it's easy to just read something and I think of it as just like a specific example, but seeing how then we can like what this broader significance is has been really important, and that's what I've been trying to focus on more recently, and also connecting kind of the same dynamics that we're seeing in Puerto Rico to a lot of other cases so we can both just become more aware of it and then also hopefully like resist some of the harm and the violence that has been done with food. And then one of the things I've learned most, I think, in this research process has just been my own reflection on the power of research and knowledge production. Because I think we don't often think about research as being political, but I think in doing this research, I've just been so aware of my own positionality and reflexivity in that context, and just thinking about how in producing this knowledge, especially as an ethnographer, where I'm like, getting people's stories and I hold them with so much weight, and it's like, how do I use these stories not just like for my own academic whatever, but also in a way that helps the community that I'm working with and is connected to broader like advocacy and kind of social justice struggles, since I think as a researcher I don't want my research just to exist and fill knowledge gaps, but I want it to actively help communities and make positive social change. So I've been thinking a lot about research in that sense, and just reading and coming across and talking to other people doing work that's very community engaged, and I think that's been really important for me.
I love it. You did have the chance to give a talk to US students kind of about your thesis and food sovereignty in Puerto Rico. What was that like for you?
It was really great. Something that I've been trying to do with this project is connect what I'm doing and the research that I'm doing and the knowledge that I've been learning to broader audiences, because I think often in academia we don't see, it's very easy for academics to produce knowledge that then just stays in academia and is read by a very small number of people and doesn't have a larger impact or it can't be communicated to wider audiences. So for me, especially with a project that I feel like is so important and just needs to be shared,
and then you put so much work into
but I feel like it needs to be communicated to wider audiences. So I've been thinking a lot about how, like, scholars call it knowledge mobilization, but basically it's just like, how can I communicate these ideas to broader audiences? So I did the talk, which was great because I had community members come, including people from kind of local food sovereignty organizations. So seeing how our work connects there, and then also other scholars, other undergraduate students. So trying to just like talk about this. I also did a podcast talking about my research.
No way.
Yeah, that's cool. Just thinking about like ways that I can make this more relevant. I also am thinking about doing a zine after I finish my thesis. So trying to, again, think about ways that I can turn my research into not just like this academic paper, but into something that actually people can engage with at a more like just hands-on basis.
Yeah. And our final question, what is your favorite food?
Oh my God. Okay, recently my thesis snack has been Takis.
Totally.
Which are so bad, but it's like late at night when I'm trying to write, like, oh, Takis. But I also love ice cream.
I love it.
Ice cream, and then also like fresh food, I love going to the grocery store, the farmer's market, and getting like a bunch of fresh veggies, and then going home and just cooking whatever comes. Garlic, I like a lot of food, but Takis have been
the go-to.
Right now.
I love it.